Bismillah, Irrahman, Irahim. My dear brothers and sisters, in this age 2025, we are witnessing a world that is changing faster than at any time in human history. Technology, culture, morality, and identity are shifting in ways that many of us could never have imagined. But behind these rapid changes lies a deeper reality. Shaytan is preparing the world for the coming of Dajjal. This is not fear-mongering. This is not exaggeration. This is exactly what the Prophet Muhammad warned us about over 1400 years ago. Shaytan's preparation of the world for the arrival of Dajjal begins with the gradual construction of a global environment where falsehood becomes easier to accept than truth. Over time, societies drift away from moral clarity, and people grow accustomed to contradictions, confusion, and shifting values. What was once considered obviously immoral becomes normalized, and what was once sacred is treated casually. This slow erosion of principles conditions the human mind to live without a firm anchor. As people rely more on emotions than conviction, on opinions rather than revelation, truth becomes a matter of preference rather than guidance. This makes individuals far more susceptible to deception, because they no longer measure right and wrong using divine standards but through trends and personal desires. Dajjal's system thrives in such an environment, one where constant distractions prevent reflection, where entertainment replaces wisdom, and where individuals no longer seek purpose beyond their immediate wants. As the world becomes more interconnected and more confused at the same time, the stage is set for a figure who promises answers, unity, and miracles. This is why the Prophet warned that Dajjal's emergence would be preceded by widespread fitna, a world spiritually weakened and prepared to accept him without resistance. Shaytan's strategy continues with his direct focus on the human heart, because the heart is the command center of faith, clarity, and spiritual resilience. When the heart is alive with remembrance, deception becomes difficult, but when the heart is overwhelmed with desires, overthinking, and constant noise, faith slowly drains away. Shaytan works to fill the heart with anything that disconnects it from Allah. Material anxieties, pursuit of status, obsession with appearance, envy, and emotional instability. People begin to chase validation rather than virtue, pleasure rather than discipline, and temporary comfort rather than eternal success. A heart that becomes numb to worship and heavy with distractions loses its ability to recognize subtle forms of falsehood. Emotional reactions begin to overpower spiritual conviction, and personal desires begin to shape beliefs. When such a heart is confronted with Dajjal's promises of safety, prosperity, healing, and relief from hardship, it becomes easy prey. Shaytan knows that Dajjal does not need to persuade the mind. If the heart is already empty, hollow hearts can be filled with anything, even lies pretending to be truth. The world's growing attraction to illusion over reality is another major step in preparing humanity for Dajjal. Modern life has become saturated with digital manipulation, artificial intelligence, altered images, virtual experiences, and fabricated realities that capture attention more powerfully than the real world. People can no longer distinguish authenticity from illusion, and truth becomes relative to whatever appears convincing. This normalization of deception weakens the human instinct to question, verify, and reflect. Once illusions become entertaining and desirable, people stop caring whether something is real as long as it feels good. Entire industries thrive on manufacturing false lifestyles, false appearances, and false narratives, and people willingly absorb them. Dajjal's power lies in his ability to create illusions so compelling that they mimic miracles. Rain where there is drought, wealth where there is poverty, healing where there is sickness. If people today are already captivated by digital illusions on a screen, how much more vulnerable will they be to physical illusions presented directly before their eyes? Society is being quietly trained to surrender to whatever appears impressive, whatever satisfies the senses, and whatever demands the least effort to believe. This conditioning erodes critical thinking and spiritual awareness, opening the door wide for the greatest deceiver in history. Another powerful aspect of Shaytan's preparation is cultivating a global mindset obsessed with shortcuts. People have grown accustomed to wanting everything instantly, results without effort, success without sacrifice, peace without discipline, and healing without turning to Allah. This impatience weakens the soul and creates a dependency on quick solutions that bypass spiritual growth. The more people rely on convenience, the less capacity they develop for perseverance. Dajjal will exploit this weakness by offering immediate benefits that mimic divine blessings: food in times of hunger, water in times of drought, wealth in times of poverty, and relief in times of suffering. Those who never learn to endure hardship or trust Allah during difficulty will naturally gravitate toward whoever promises immediate relief. A generation conditioned to avoid struggle becomes spiritually fragile, and a fragile soul is unable to resist temptation. Shaytan nurtures a world where people crave shortcuts, because shortcuts make faith feel unnecessary and delayed rewards feel unappealing. This inner weakness creates the perfect spiritual vacuum for Dajjal's arrival. as people will be ready to follow anyone who fulfills their desires instantly. The final understanding is that true protection from Dajjal does not lie in knowledge, technology, or awareness of world events, but in deep and unwavering iman rooted in the heart. Acts of worship such as salah, recitation of Surah Al-Kahf, remembrance of Allah, sincere dua, and living truthfully form a spiritual shield that cannot be penetrated by deception. These practices keep the heart awake, the mind clear, and the soul connected to divine guidance. A person anchored in faith recognizes falsehood even when it appears dazzling, and they recognize truth even when it is unpopular, difficult, or hidden. The Prophet emphasized that Dajjal's greatest victims will not be the ignorant, but those whose faith was weak, neglected, or easily shaken. Protection comes from the cultivation of a strong spiritual identity, one that does not bend under pressure or follow illusions. When a believer's heart is filled with Allah, there is no space left for the influence of Shaytan or Dajjal. In a world drowning in confusion, deception, and moral instability, the only sanctuary lies in returning to Allah with sincerity and discipline, so that when the greatest trial arrives, the heart remains firm and unshaken.